Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, great to see you this nice, sunny spring day. Right? It really feels like spring outside with all the changing weather and everything. We've been doing a ongoing series on the duties and missions of the citizens of the Heavenly Kingdom. Chenon Il Guk. Chenon Il Guk is the Korean word for the Heavenly Kingdom. If you think about it, to live in the ideal world, what kind of people are needed? Now, we can build whatever structures or government or whatever, but as long as the people are messed up, you're going to have problems, right? So if we focus and recognize the qualities and the characteristics of people in the Heavenly Kingdom and strive towards those, well, we're doing our part to contribute to building that kind of Heavenly Kingdom. And so we're exploring a list that our founder, Rev Moon, did in a talk he gave back a few years back before he passed away, where he outlined 7 fundamental qualities of citizens of the Heavenly Kingdom. So I've reviewed this a couple of times, so I just want to see, how many do you remember? Quiz time. What's the first one? The most important thing is what? Love. Yeah, practicing love, practicing true love in our life. And then, of course, we need to follow our conscience, mind-body unity. We need to educate, share what we have, witness, share the truth, and help people connect more deeply with God as their heavenly parent. Also, we need to understand about the spiritual world and harmonize and realize how the spirit world is working in our lives and the world around us. Also, we need to be people who can overcome the challenge of selfishness and be people who contribute to the world. Instead of living just for myself, living as people who try to make a positive difference in the world around us. It's fundamental for the kingdom of heaven. People who are making a contribution to others. And then, of course, to love and protect nature, the natural environment that we live in. We're designed to be the true caretaker, stewards of this beautiful planet. And then finally, Father Moon emphasizes we have to be emissaries to the world for God's purpose, for heavenly purpose. And he calls it, so where there's conflict in the world, well, you have to be the Heavenly Kingdom's police force. Not that you're going in and you're going to, shoot people, but we have the skill to bring conflict resolution. So we're the police force to bring resolution to conflict where there's conflict. And he also, the other side of that, he says you should be the Heavenly Kingdom's Peace Corps, which goes out and helps to build up and help countries develop and people to prosper, because God wants all God's children to be able to prosper, to live in peace without conflict, and to grow and to prosper and to develop. So this week we're going to focus on the quality of uniting our mind and body and also following our conscience. He put those two things together. So the quality of heavenly citizens that we're going to focus on, it's the unity of our mind and body and following our conscience. Here's an excerpt from the talk that he gave where he was talking about this. This was the second point that he made. He said, second, no matter what the situation, you will live with your mind and body united as one. Before you desire to have dominion over the universe, you must first have dominion over yourself. Self-control, mastery of ourselves. And then later on he continues, and place your conscience in God's position over your life. So we're going to look at those 2 qualities, mind and body unity and following our conscience. Actually, that mind-body unity is a little bit of a unification shorthand. We use, mind-body unity. You have to have mind-body unity, right? The first purpose of life is mind and body centered on God. But practically speaking, when we use that shorthand term, what are we talking about? If you think about it in terms of practical life, a person whose mind and body are united, well, their words and their actions are the same. Someone says they're going to do something, then they do it. That's unity between mind and body. And this is a challenge that some of us may face, maybe me more than others. But anyway, you put the word out there. Are your actions the same as your word? Are you walking the walk as well as talking the talk? Right. So are their words and deeds one? This is our unity of mind and body. But also a person whose mind and body are united, their thoughts, their actions, they're a person of integrity. Genuine people. Someone who's genuine and has mastery. It's a mature person in their life. Now, to get there is a process of growth. We develop in our life self-discipline, self-control, and self-mastery. Now, this isn't just because we live in a fallen world and because of the problems. Even children, as they grow through their life, they go through the process of developing self-control, self-mastery, self-discipline. Their mind and body become united. Very well, a little baby wants to do a lot of things with its mind a long time before it can get the body to do it, right? You can imagine Tadashi's eyeing enviously, looking at, I want to grab that thing over there on that countertop. But my body won't get me there yet. So what does the baby do? It's like, it just screams. Okay, universe, please take care of me. Mom and Dad, make me happy. So as we mature and grow, we develop that self-discipline, self-control, and that self-mastery. Another important quality, though, mind and body, because there's a little bit of wrestling going back there between the mind and body, is the ability to delay gratification. See, the body, I want it right now. I want what I want, and I want it right now, right? This is the body's desire. It doesn't think, I can plan ahead and think, in a couple, a little bit longer I can get it. No. The body wants it right now, immediate gratification. I know a few babies like that, right? In fact, I think almost every baby doesn't say, Mom's probably pretty tired. I think I'll let her rest for a little while. And, my pants are kind of poopy, but I can delay that gratification till Mom feels, gets a little rest. Nah. No, they just scream, make me happy again. Instant gratification. They don't want to wait. I'll give you some food in a little bit. No, now. Of course, you may have experienced a few adults like this as well. It's one of the challenges that we have in life. How do we develop our ability to delay gratification? It's one of the skills. It's something that doesn't happen automatically. With babies, it's fine for babies to be that way. It's not a problem. But as we become mature, responsible people, then it becomes a problem. Because honestly speaking, if we really want to accomplish something worthwhile in our life, what does it take? It takes a lot of putting off the satisfaction that you're going to get from the end, working hard, practicing, preparing, all the hard work and even sacrifice that goes in to eventually reaching that point where you can get the satisfaction. So it's an important skill that we develop in our life in order to be happy and fulfilled in our lives. Now, this challenge is not unique. And even in the Bible, St. Paul talks about the challenge between the mind and the body. This is from the book of Romans. And actually, he says a lot more about it, but I just pulled out a couple of sentences. Paul says, "For I joyfully concur with the law of God in the inner man, but I see a different law in the members of my body, waging war against the law of my mind." Right? So the mind and body are fighting each other. Later on he says, "On the one hand, I myself, with my mind, am serving the law of God. But on the other, with my flesh," meaning my body, "I serve the law of sin." And this is the challenge that we wrestle with in our life. This is why most religious traditions emphasize some type of self-discipline and sacrifice. Things like fasting, things to help separate and the control of the body so that the mind truly becomes the Lord and Master over the body and guides us. Our practice of self-control in our life, especially practicing the delaying of gratification, it's important to strengthen that muscle, that mind-body unity. God's desire is to see the mind and body in harmony. The body wants to be fed is not evil. It's not wrong. But that the body wants to be fed right now, no matter what, and sacrifice the rest of the universe in order for me to be happy, that's the problem. So the mind and the body need to work as partners. God designed them to be partners in a partner relationship. But who takes the lead? the mind has to take the lead. Now the body gives this is what I need, this is what I need for to survive. If I don't get that watermelon right away, I'm going to die. I just know it. The mind says, it's okay, you won't die. I'll take care of you, I love you, but you're going to have to wait. Just like parents, we have to do with our kids. Yes, I know you really want that right now, but you have to wait till we get home, or whatever, And it's an important learning skill that we develop. That mind-body unity is an important power for us to be able to accomplish anything that we want in our life. So, mind-body unity. Now, thing is that we're not just talking about any kind of mind-body unity. A super villain is going to have good mind-body unity, right? Their mind wants to do this evil thing, and their body is going to do it, right? So, that true mind-body unity, because the body, it doesn't like, to do evil. It rebels against that. So true happiness and fulfillment is when the mind centered on goodness and the body are united and harmonized. Here's what Father Moon said to really emphasize the importance of that relationship between the mind and the body, and particularly our conscience. No one, though, can conquer the body without welcoming God into him or herself. Only with the power of God's true love and truth can the mind become the subject partner, take command of the body as its object partner, and realize the ideal of oneness in God. So even though through self-discipline and control we can get mind-body unity, good self-discipline, good soldiers, things like that, but for that genuine unity in our lives, a unity that means harmony and joy and fulfillment, then we need God in our lives. And not just God that's up on the mountaintop, but the God that's personally present in our daily lives. And so that's something that we also need to invest our lives in. How do we bring God more present into that relationship in the harmony between my mind and my body? So, that brings us to the second point, the conscience. Father Moon says, your conscience should be leading you as if God was leading you. So, the question is, what's the conscience? Now, psychologists have lots of ideas about that. The most famous one, of course, is Freud. And he's explaining, Freud said the human being is made up of three parts. There's the superego, which is the conscience, the id, which is the child that just says, I want it, and I want it right now, the impulse, the desire for everything, and then the ego, which is kind of in the middle, which is supposed to navigate and balance them both out, right? I'm simplifying things a lot there. So the superego basically is the internalized rules and regulations and things that you're supposed to do and that kind of stuff. It's the governor that's on us. Now, most psychologists, when they look at that as a superego has some good functions, right? It keeps us following the norms of society, but also it's at the root of lots of psychological disorders, neurosis. Because generally, especially the fallen conscience, its main weapon to guide us is guilt. Guilt. You're terrible. If you're not perfect, you're terrible. That kind of thinking. Well, this isn't the genuine conscience. God designed the conscience as a tool. Actually, it's a tool for us to be able to internalize the values and standards of God's ideal. And we get it from our parents. But in God's ideal, our parents would be what? They would be one in heart and mind with God. They would be able to express that true, perfect love. And so what we're inheriting from them is not just the rules and regulations, but the heart and the love behind it. This is what our conscience is designed to be. Now, because we live in a fallen world, no matter how great, our parents were, no matter how great we are, we still, our kids suffer a little bit from us, because our parents were perfect, their parents were perfect, and it goes all the way back. We're all wrestling with this challenge. But the conscience is this amazing tool that God designed. And you're here further on, Father Moon says, the conscience is even closer to us than God. Because that's how God can interact with us most deeply, is through our conscience. And He gave us a conscience to help us to be as a compass, to guide us on our way. It's an amazing thing that no matter if someone's conscience, because of their upbringing or their culture or whatever, makes them do wrong or whatever, but the conscience always makes you want to be the best you can be. Now, it's shaped by the concept of what that best is, but it never says, oh, the conscience says, you should be lazier, you should be worse at that. Your conscience never says you should be not the best person you should be. You should be the worst person. No, conscience never says that. Regardless of the content, no one's conscience ever says you should be bad. The conscience always says you should be good. Challenges sometimes that idea of good might not be so correct or right, but God gave us that conscience as to something that would guide us towards being the best people we can be. Let me share some words from Father Moon when he talks a little bit more in depth about the conscience, or he calls it the higher mind sometimes. And this is coming from the Chenon Il Guk, but the book on true person, being a true person. Father Moon says, your conscience, or higher mind, is your second God. God is your first God in the plus position towards your mind, influence in our mind. But the second God, the mind, is always with you. It relates to you from deep in your conscience, from within the depths of love, life, and lineage. So even the baby that doesn't necessarily understand so much about God can learn through the conscience. Father Moon says, later on, he says, the conscience. As a guide, this mind or conscience is better than your parents, better than your king, better even than God. It's that precious. This is an amazing thing for him to say. Even better than God? Wait a minute. Well, who put the conscience there? God put the conscience there. This is from the peace messages that Father Moon gave, and he's talking particularly about our conscience. He says, the most elevated function of the conscience is its role as our true parent, our true teacher, and true owner. Our conscience acts as a true parent, true teacher, and true owner on behalf of God, guiding our life and educating us from the moment of birth. Our conscience functions as a guide, keeping watch over every action at every moment. Its awareness of our every word, thought, and deed precedes that of our parents, our teachers, and even God. God infuses into the conscience the function of guiding and supervising life. So even before our teachers know that we're off, we know we're off. When our parents know that we find out we've done something wrong, we already know that we've done something wrong. Even before God sees us doing what we're doing wrong, we knew in ourselves. Probably the conscience reports. God's there. So how do we nurture this? The conscience is designed to be that guide that's going to help us be the best people we can be. However, we need to nurture our conscience. How many people have heard the expression of people, that person doesn't seem to have a conscience. So they don't really care about anyone else. They live just for me. Oh, don't you have a conscience? Sometimes you've probably heard or said that expression once or twice. So, don't you have a conscience there? So how do we strengthen our conscience? How do we nurture in ourselves that true appreciation and understanding of God's presence in our life? The very first thing we need to do is we need to fill our mind with a true understanding about reality, of the truth. This is why in our tradition we emphasize so much. Daily study and reflection on God's truth, on God's words, is so critical for us to be healthy people, to be fulfilled people. Because if our conscience understands the heart of God, the purpose of creation, God's ideal, then our conscience can guide us more clearly. When we're confused about things, when we try to ignore our conscience, just say, well, let my body, if it feels good, do it. Actually, this was a big part of the 60s movement, right? We had all this Freudian psychology. Oh, all of our hang-ups come from that superego. It's that conscience that's making me have not a fun time, right? So in order to have a fun time, I need to get rid of that conscience. That's just stopping me. It's hang-ups. It's just holding me back. Tragically, we saw the result of that kind of culture. The breakdown of family. I don't need to be responsible for a family. I don't be responsible for kids. I don't need to, I just, whatever. I do what I want, what feels good. And that does not lead to happiness. It doesn't lead to fulfillment or joy. So we need, but it's true. Many of the concepts that we got, that's when we feel guilty about things, not necessarily correct. So that's why it's so important that we understand the truth, that we nurture our conscience. Because God is there. God is using that conscience to push us to be the best we can be. We need to understand what that is. What is the best we can be? Understanding our purpose in life, and our relationship and with God. Another fundamental thing that helps us cultivate that kind of conscience is being able to see things from God's perspective. The more we understand the truth, that's why we study the principle and scriptures a lot, but we start to practically think, how does God see this situation? That informs our conscience, because our conscience is truly guiding us to be divine beings. Beings that truly generate God's love around in the world. So when we can see people from God's perspective, with God's heart, then we can act consistent with that. Of course, this is also that foundation of our mind and body have to be united. But the conscience is that source for us truly living and bringing to pass God's will and God's desire in the world around us. So, filling our mind with truth. This is why we study. We pray, we seek God. And then through our meditation and our prayer, we cultivate seeing things from God's point of view, from God's heart. Then the third thing that we do that strengthens the power of our conscience in our life is we need to develop a habit of listening to the conscience and following it and obeying it. The more you ignore something, my conscience, I'm going to ignore that. I'm not going to think about it. The more we ignore our conscience, the easier it becomes to ignore our conscience. Some people made a whole strategy out of, my goal is how can I get, I got to overcome my conscience that doesn't want me to do these things. Whoa. So, the more we practice following our conscience, and, often our conscience will push us to do things that are uncomfortable. Things that, do I really have to do that? Do I really? The conscience is yeah, but it pushes us to do things that are uncomfortable. Challenges us in our life. But the more we follow that and realize the fulfillment that comes from following our conscience, the stronger, the easier it becomes. Oh, my conscience this? I don't have to think about it. Oh, yeah, it's my guiding point. It's my compass. It gives me good directions. I don't need to fight against it. The more we practice and develop the habit of listening to our conscience and following it, then the more likely we are to succeed in doing it. It just becomes more automatic. We need to grow in our understanding. We need to grow in our perspective, seeing things from God's perspective, and we need to develop the habits of following our conscience, doing what we know and feel is right. So, we've got to keep growing. As we get older, at some point we kind of think, I've grown enough. I've followed my conscience. I'm a pretty good person. I follow my conscience, half the time. Not too bad, right? I feel like I'm doing okay. Oh, practice self-control. That's for young kids. That's for the youngsters. Let the youngsters practice that self-control. I'm too old for that. I'm too old to have to follow my conscience or to sacrifice and to do difficulties. Oh, no. But if we do that, then what are we doing? We're
discussing your sermon.
Make it real in your life.
He moved on to the discussion already.
Okay. Well, then I'll just close with this. This is the last quote from Father Moon, and then you can discuss. When you follow the path set out by your conscience, your mind will come to embrace the universe. When this happens, you'll be able to communicate with your heart. Whenever you start to do something, your conscience will immediately show you the effects of the action. This experience proves that God resides in your heart. So, no matter how old we are, let's don't stop growing. Let's take those opportunities to sacrifice. Maybe, I'll just leave that one last, I won't get that next helping. Even my body says, I could use it. I'm old. I deserve it. But the habit of being disciplined and those little sacrifices allows us to experience much more fulfillment in our life and practicing following our conscience. Please join me in prayer. Good morning, Father, Mother God. We thank you for your presence, for your constant work in our lives, and especially, Heavenly Parent, you put in each of our minds the conscience as that closest thing, that you're representative, always there, pushing us to be the people, the best that we can be. Heavenly Parent, we're so grateful for the chance we have to participate in this time of history. In the world around us, so many things are happening, but we know that the transformation of this world, of this planet, begins with me. I'm the starting point. So, Heavenly Parent, I want to bring before, and each of us wants to bring before you the challenges that we face, the areas in our life, Heavenly Parent, where sometimes we're not so disciplined or controlled. Heavenly Parent, we want to invite you, please inspire us, guide us, give us that inspiration so that we can exercise that self-control and continue to work through our conscience to guide us, that we can be people not motivated or driven by guilt, but, Heavenly Parent, people who are driven by our love for you and our love for your children in the world. So as your sons and daughters and as blessed central families, we offer up this prayer. Amen and adieu. All righty, so please continue your discussion. Pick up and